Design or Die podcast, meant to connect creatives together and help you navigate the struggles and the triumphs of what it means to be an entrepreneur so that you and your business can thrive. I'm your host, Colette. Let's get creative. Hello and Happy New Year. So it's been a little while since I've been on here, but I needed that time to kind of decompress, enjoy the holidays. Unfortunately, I ended up getting COVID over the holidays and all my family were quarantined in separate rooms, so I really didn't get my fix on family time. But anyway, I'm refreshed. So this episode is with a photographer and how she switched up her business to make it work for her. And we're going to talk about time management and how she manages being a mother as well as a business owner. And I know that a lot of you can probably relate to that, so I hope you enjoy it. All right. Hello. Today I have Katy Murray on the pod. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. Why don't you just start off by talking about what you do?
Yeah, definitely. So again, thanks for having me. What I do is kind of a hybrid of a lot of things, but the main thing is I offer support for entrepreneurs and career-minded individuals. So we started out as a photography business, and that has been our main breadwinner over the years, but we're pivoting into supporting entrepreneurs. And I know we're going to touch on it at some point today, but also we have kind of a stationary illustration side gig too, because I absolutely love creating. And that's where I kind of get my creative endeavors out and scratch that itch. But the meat and potatoes of what we do is just really supporting other entrepreneurs. I'm super passionate about business and helping others grow and just coming along as a support for them. So that is incorporating, we do virtual assistant. We have a virtual assistant firm. We also do coaching and just really helping people structure their business for success.
That's awesome. I love that. Of course, I'm so into that as well. It's the whole point of me being here. So when you say we, who does that with you?
Good question. So I've pivoted my mindset to saying we because we do have a couple team members who are contractors. And then my husband, just under a year ago, joined me in the entrepreneur world. So initially with photography, it was me and my second shooters. But now we have a team who works for us and helps us execute the virtual assistant firm while also managing our social media. And then we have a podcast too. And so he will produce it and help with those elements. So that's the we in it.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, it takes a lot to do that many things.
Definitely.
What did you first start out with when you were going off on your own?
So about 10 years ago, I started as a photographer. It was very off the cuff, no plans. Just did a road trip across the country, and that I took a camera with me and took photos. And when I came back, I had framed some of those photos as gifts. And then people were like, "Oh gosh, you're a photographer? Come take our family photos, come do this, come do that." And it just has blossomed. The last 3 years have been our most profitable ever and continue to grow, which has been really amazing. But as we talked about earlier when we touched base, was that I also now have a 3-year-old. So our worlds have changed a little bit because balancing motherhood and the entrepreneur world has been challenging. So that's how we started, and then kind of segued into during the pandemic. I started doing a lot of, I don't want to say craft. I prefer the term art, because I would draw things and stuff, and quickly realized that that was a cool skill set and it was super therapeutic for me. And I would just sell the drawings because I didn't need that many drawings. And that's how we segued into that creative endeavor. But motherhood has definitely pushed the pivot to step away from photography more.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, as creatives in general, we're always trying to dip our toes in a few different things. So it's funny that you say that, because I feel like I've done the same thing. I started with art and then moved to graphic design and then moved to wedding stationery. And you think you're going to start off with one thing and then life kind of takes you in another direction.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see. A lot of times, you never know where it's going to go.
You don't.
I wouldn't have expected doing wedding stationery. I hadn't even done that until I did my own, basically. So it was kind of, how your photography thing was. I just tried it. I loved it. And the rest is history.
Yeah, exactly.
Tell me more about like owning these different businesses while being a mother. Like, what's your biggest struggle so far?
I would say my biggest struggle, I mean, not to be dramatic, but there's a lot of struggles when balancing them. But I think, and this is something that I've mentioned like on my podcast, is that like the phases have been super hard because she was a newborn and you had to learn how to like cope through that and the sleepless nights. And then as she became a toddler, there was like a new phase. And honestly, as she's gotten older, I've wanted to be with her more. Like as a newborn, it's like, well, she didn't really know if I was there or not. So like,
Right.
no big deal. So that's been interesting. But on the flip side, that same struggle has been my saving grace because she's constantly evolving and growing, like to the point that now she'll come over. Like last night, I was drawing a wedding crest, like a custom one for a client. And she came over, she's like, Mommy, can I see that? And I was like, sure. And she's like, oh, that's beautiful. And I was like, oh, thank you. Like it was just so sweet. So my struggles have also been some of the saving grace in that regard.
Oh, that's great. So, do you have any tips or things you would recommend for new mothers who are getting into small business world?
Yes, I probably have way too many. So I'll like hone in on a couple. One thing is I would say just be intentional, like as you branch into wanting to start a business, or even if you're in your first year or two, like just be intentional with your time budgeting, which basically just allocating certain amount of time to do certain things and sticking with it. Because especially with a business, I mean, you know this full well that there's no end game. Like you could work until midnight every night. Like there's no hard stop time. There's no clock out. So just be intentional with your time. And with that, just like set boundaries and don't be worried if you can't be everything to your kid. Like it's okay to send them to daycare or to lean on your in-laws or to like have time away from them so that you can do you, even if that's on the business side. Cause it's just so important to also fill your own cup and give yourself grace
Totally.
as you approach motherhood. And for me, it was the opposite. Like I had a business established. I knew what I was doing. I was set up, like we'd been married 8 years. Like our life was pretty structured as it was. And then all of a sudden you throw this like stranger into the mix and it like threw me a curveball and so many things. Like I remember one time I had a photo shoot that we had to change because of a rain date. And like the client was like, can we just meet tonight? And I was like, no, I don't have childcare. And she's like, well, my in-law mother is coming and she's actually a child development teacher. Like she would be happy to watch her kid. And I knew I didn't want to do that, but like it was just easier. So I was like, okay, I trust you guys. That's fine. And I literally shot with her on my hip the entire time because she was like so clingy. And that was the first moment when I was like, oh my gosh, I do not want my worlds to collide. Like
Right.
motherhood is this, business is this.
Yes, that's where the boundaries play in. Like,
Yeah.
because it can cause a lot more stress that you don't need.
Yeah. And then you just feel like, okay, now I'm neglecting my kid and potentially not getting what I need for my client, which the session went well. Don't get me wrong. Like, but I didn't feel like I was serving them like I wanted to. And I also had to neglect my child in the mix. So just giving yourself grace and knowing that like it's okay to give them to a friend when you have to do something. Or I think if I could mentally prepare for that session a little bit better, we could have made it work better. But it just, my worlds collided. And that was a moment when I was like, what am I doing? Like, what is this? And since then, she's come to a couple that like have worked out much better. But still, I'm just like, let's just keep these worlds kind of separate in that regard.
Yeah, that's true. I never thought about like the different stages you were saying. So like your schedule, your world is completely changing with every stage. So you have to like accommodate that, which
Mhm.
is, something I hadn't thought of. So how do you best set up like your day to get everything done and also get what you need done for your family as well?
That's a really good question. It's something so that the audience knows. So I work full time. I'm the head of the HR department at my organization, and we have like 500 employees or so. So it's pretty big operations there. And then all intensively, we technically have 3 LLCs. So it's a lot to take on. Number one is like outsourcing delegation. That's not something that I really even got into until about a year ago. I'm kind of a control freak. And we can dive into that one.
Yeah.
But that number one, I have a support group. So that helps me. So any listeners don't be like, oh my God, like, what is she doing? But I would say that time management is one of my big things. I set time buckets. So if I'm working from home, which doesn't happen super often anymore now that COVID's kind of moving out, is I will set 45-minute time blocks on my phone, and every 45 minutes I have to rotate to a new task. I'm a big procrastinator, so kind of giving myself those budgets allows me to like, okay, I got to move on to the next thing. But also I do a weekly to-do list, a daily to-do list, and a monthly to-do list so that I have my bigger projects, so that I allocate time every day to work on back burner things.
Okay.
While also working on forward movement. And that means for like a tangible, just to give you like a rundown, would be in the morning, I check my email and kind of slate out my day. I don't necessarily respond to every email because like some of them will take a lot more time, but I slate out my day by writing my to-do list and then making it like what can go to Tuesday, what can go to Wednesday, what can go to Thursday based on deadlines and whatnot. And I first put in like hard stops. Like we have gymnastics on Thursday. So like that's not a recording night. That's not a night that I get anything else done, and work backwards from there. And it's been super beneficial. And I'll say that like the last 2 weeks at work have been kind of crazy. So I haven't been as intentional with my time because stuff's just getting thrown at me. And I can see that my productivity is so much lower. And I feel like then my quality time with my kid loses quality because I'm sitting here running through my to-do list. So that's kind of my daily approach.
Nice. Yeah, I'm a big to-do list person. I always have like a running list on my phone in the notes app. And then I have also like my monthly one back here, which is not filled out for the month, but I'll get there. So the one on my phone, I always stick to because it's like right in front of me. I can always update it. And so like Friday nights before I start my weekend, I'll like make sure I list out what I need to do next week. So I'm not thinking about it all weekend and like, don't get stressed about it. Because if I forget to write it down, I'm going to forget to do it. So I think lists are amazing. And my husband was actually the one that encouraged me to start making lists because I would just be so overwhelmed. And he actually sat down with me, wrote on a piece of paper, like, what do you need to do this week? Label it as most important, harsh deadline, and go from there. And that helped me so much. And I like, once you check those off too, it's like something about checking them off just makes you feel like you've done something. I would work full 8-hour days and then feel like, oh, I got nothing done. But when you have a list and you can check it off, then you're like, oh, but I did do this and this and this. Such a great tip.
Totally. And I think with creative endeavors, it's harder too, because you're not like comparing my day job to like my business. I can kind of like tangibly see things a little bit differently because they're so product based. It's a turnover pretty quickly. But when you're like a creative, like if you're doing a wedding stationery suite, your design time, you can't necessarily account for it because you have to like work through the creative mood and like make sure that it hits at the right time and that you really dive into that. It's funny though that your husband got you set up with that, because like my husband, when he switched to working from home and not working in the corporate world, or technically private club world, but I went through that with him. I was like, you gotta have lists, like you gotta have this, you gotta have that. And now he has, it's not down here, he has a little black notebook that like he keeps his lists. And I was like, it's amazing because then you know where you're at. You don't, and I don't know if you do this, but sometimes if I forget something and I'm like laying in bed or I'm driving or something, I'll voice a text myself and be like, don't forget this, so that I add it to the list. Because like you said, otherwise it's gone. Like if it doesn't hit my list, it never comes back.
Yeah, that's a good one too. But I have implemented after a certain time at night, my phone goes on like no business apps or anything, no emails can come to me, because if I spend like too much time thinking about that, it'll be like 10 p.m. and I'm like, okay, why am I still thinking about work? For me, it's like I gotta find the healthy balance. If you're thinking about starting a podcast, Anchor.fm is such a great way to start. It has all the tools you need to get you set up, has music you can add, you can record directly on there and create your episodes. So check out Anchor if you're ready to get started on your podcast journey. So yeah, I want to talk more about your stationery business too, since I also do that. What is like your focus there? Like, what is your favorite part about it? Do you like doing like the invitations, the custom watercolor crests? What's your favorite creative outlet in that?
It's funny you ask that. I'm not even sure. It's so new. And the reason that I wanted it was in photography, I'm service-based and digital products. So I don't actually have tangibles. So that's what like turned me on to stationery and illustrations, was that I could have something printed and like touch it and feel it and see it.
Yeah.
And so I was doing stationery cards, just like greeting cards. And I loved like the day when I went to print and then folded and like did that. So I recently introduced, well, not super recent, but semi-custom wedding invitations so
Okay.
that I can utilize my illustrations. And probably my favorite part is just drawing, just doing the hand drawing. Like I love pen and ink, just black and white hand drawing. A lot of my crests fall that way because people know that's more my style. I do like the watercolor and stuff. I appreciate the challenge of it, but I think I have the most fun, which is ink to paper. Like that's my favorite. What about you? Like, I want to hear what you love about it.
Yeah, so I feel like just curating it in a way, putting together the whole color palette and matching like the little details to like the wax, just the really in-depth details that no one else thinks about, kind of. I feel like that's been fun because I get a whole vision of it beforehand, and then seeing it like come to fruition is really cool. And also I focus heavily on like custom invitations. So usually the people I get for custom invitations have a unique idea. This one couple that I'm working with right now is incorporating 2 different countries and the colors of the flag, and like, but they're also Hartford based, so they're wanting illustrations from Hartford. And it's just really cool to kind of create all those ideas and see them come together, I think has been my favorite thing. So like I said, I'm an artist as well, but I don't do a lot of the illustrations when I get those because I just don't have the time. Because that's super time consuming, and I do enjoy it. And I think once things slow down for me a little bit, I can hone in on doing every part of it. But right now I have to outsource it. But yeah, I think just like seeing it all come together really is the best part for me.
I love that you hit on like the details too, because like when I draw, even if it's like a flower or something, just like the shading and the details is like, I love that. I did work with another stationery person, stationist. How do you say?
Stationer.
I just make up words, like no big deal.
It's okay.
But I illustrated a baby shower invite for her. So she like did the design, but I drew all the woodland creatures and all the like doodles and flowers. And it was so cool to see my drawings on someone else's stuff. Like, I think down the road, that would be where I eventually go with that, because I recently learned about like Creative Market.
Yes.
I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, you could sell your stuff on there too, actually. So
that's literally what she said. She was like, just go sell it if you want to just draw, because then I just draw whatever I want and then people buy it if they want to. Like, there's no pressure.
Right. I buy a lot of those. Like if I need just something specific that I know has already been made kind of thing, like I get it from there, or like fonts and stuff like that, hand-drawn calligraphy fonts and stuff. It's a great resource.
Oh yeah, I love it. And I probably will post those woodland creatures because like I have a full set of all these illustrations for it now. And it's like, why not just put it out there? And it's sort of semi-passive because I've already drawn them. So
yes, that's how I feel about like the semi-custom invitations too. Like they're already done and then people can just order them and you like plug and place in things.
Yeah.
That's a nice option too for that. So to go back to delegation, I want to talk about this because I was in a webinar this week actually, and they were talking about expanding your business. And this is what I hit on in my own business. Sometime last year, I was just thinking about it and I'm like, if I want this business to really get bigger, I cannot do it all on my own. I'm one person. Like, this is the amount of capacity I have. And once that is filled, it cannot go bigger without hiring out. So I did hire an assistant for a while. I don't have one currently, but I also did pick up a full-time job for design, which is pretty flexible, which is why I can do that and do my wedding invitation stuff. But yeah, when was the point where you realized that you needed to hire out help?
That's a good question, because it was not an easy decision. I probably could have got away with it a couple years ago. I did start introducing associate shooters technically. Like I would bring them on and give them some of my weddings. I don't particularly care for that because like people hire me for me in that regard.
Right.
But that was the first step. And then the second one was not November, like 2 months ago, but November a year ago. I really wanted to up my Pinterest game. And it was just something that I wasn't really touching on. And I knew if I wanted to add that element of, I don't want to say social media because it's not technically social media, but like that element of marketing, I needed help. And so initially we just hired someone on an hourly basis to help. And then during the summer, I got a pretty big promotion at my job and took over the department, and I'm in HR. So the summertime's even more busy because we have so much seasonal staff. So in the summer, I brought on a couple more people to just help execute. And I found, and depending on your flexibility with your full-time gig, like I wasn't really logging onto social media between like 9 and 5, not because I have a boss who cares, but just because like I literally just didn't have the time or energy to check my phone.
It's hard to focus on that when your mind's elsewhere. Like you need to dedicate time to it for sure.
Absolutely. And so that's when I was like, okay, I need somebody to just like put out the post for me, because I'd post at like 5 in the morning. So you mentioned that in the evenings you block your phone. I have morning block. So at 7 a.m. to 9:30 a.m., I can't access any social media, nothing. I can text and call, but like that's it. Just because that's like my time, and that would be the prime time when I'd be posting. So outsourcing that was really great. And then when we started doing that is when we realized the VA firm made sense, because we already established people to do that. I would love to, we're looking at this year probably bringing on a marketing manager, and then also bringing on a website developer, just so I don't have to manage those on my own anymore, and I can like make more funnels to go to where I need them to go, because we launched a couple courses this year in 2022. And so it was just realizing I couldn't do it all, and I didn't want to do it all. It's just like, to your point, you can't scale unless I only have 24 hours in the day, and I can't work all 24 of them. But if I wanted to maintain my full-time job and grow the businesses, I needed to step outside of myself, and it's been amazing. So do it.
Yeah, it was such a breeze having an assistant. I'm at the point where I think I need another one again. A good thing I had learned is like it's hard to bite the cost right up front. You're like, oh, I'm gonna be like losing this much money per month. But when you have someone like dedicated to a certain area, especially if they're like an expert in it, you're actually gonna gain money, right? You're going to get more clients, you're going to get your name out there more, and I think it'll actually like increase your brand because it has that time to dedicate to each little thing, whereas like we're wearing so many hats, it's hard to do it all and have it all be top notch.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's like a big thing a lot of small business owners are scared of, myself included, because it's hard to get to that point. But then I feel like once you take the jump, you're like, oh, this is working, or it's not working. And then you have to try something else.
Yeah. And I think to your point, like I have even a couple episodes on my podcast about it, because it's like, you're not an expert. You're not going to get what you want out of doing it yourself. And like, if you hate doing it too.
Yes.
If you're a photographer and your skill set is posing people and doing photos, but your skill set's not marketing, well, if you hire a marketer and then you're able to free up 5 hours of your week every week, and you can take on 5 more portrait sessions, you're getting your ROI. And for me, we actually did sort of the opposite though. In the last year, is we hired people that didn't have a background in it and trained them up, which has had a little bit of a learning curve. But the approach that we take is we pay them hourly to start as a contractor, but on an hourly rate as a retainer. And then as they fit our brand and learn like our criteria, we move them to a project-based salary. So then they get paid per month. But if they end up getting faster at it, then they're making more money. So it gives them incentive too, to like get faster at creating those graphics and learning it. But I know that the learning curve is a little bit higher at the start because they're not experienced in this per se. So most of our people well, so far, all of them have been like college aged.
Yeah, that's what my assistant was too. But they were majoring in graphic design. So like they had that down, which was perfect. It's hard for me to delegate in general. That's just like how I am, like, because I want things done a specific way. And I think the important thing is finding people that match you, like will understand like what you want your business to look like, especially on social media, because it does make a huge difference. It can enlighten your brand or make it look, not as nice. And which isn't like a good representation of you. You want to be like the most authentic. When I hired my first assistant, that was kind of the issue. They were a social media manager, but they just didn't understand me on a level that like made sense. Cause I'm very like, I try to be authentic and like, I don't know, the things are coming out cheesy and I'm like, this is not me. Like, it doesn't really align. Right. And then I just, moved on to someone who aligns a little bit more. And I think that's a huge point too, when hiring out people you're able to like conversate with, who gets what you're trying to do with your business.
Totally. I think one of the benefits for me, especially with learning to delegate out, is that at my full-time gig, my boss was like, you're a control freak and you can't do it all. So like, you got to let it go. And he was just talking about work. And so then in the last year and a half, I've had 5 people work for me within that, like directly with me, like an HR assistant. And like my current HR assistant, even today, I was like explaining something to him and I was like, never mind, I'll just give it back to me. I'll just do it. It'll be faster. I know it'll get done the way I want. And he like looked at me. He's like, but I won't learn what you want me to do if you don't let me. And I was like, okay, jerk. Fine. Like,
but
okay.
You're right.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, you're right. And so I've had to really learn to do that too with our team within the business, because sometimes I feel like it's like, okay, what am I not communicating? What am I not getting the point across? And what do I need to do? And so even at work, it's been a great challenge to get my full team to do what I need them to do. And for me to be like, they have to kind of like make some mistakes. Now it's a little bit easier at work because I have a boss who's telling me I have to do that. And because like, it's not my brand at the end of the day, but I know exactly what you mean. Cause with social media, we've had 4 people in the last year, like even at one time, all work for us, and they all have different skill sets. And some of them, when they're posting on social media, even the language they use, if they're like doing targeted daily engagement, I was like, okay, I don't really use those kind of words. So like, let's use these kind of words. And it's almost like I'm micromanaging, but it helps them grow and learn. So it's like, it's such a catch-22.
Yeah, it totally is. It's hard, but I think it's really helpful if you want to scale your business or if you want more time to yourself, because a lot of times that's why we want to work for ourselves, is to build the life we want. So overall, like, where do you see your future? I know you have all these different avenues that you're doing. Where do you see your business just going forward? Like, what's your goals there?
So this is something I put a lot of thought into because I do respect that I'm kind of all over the place, if you will. But with my podcast, Ginger Biz, with Katy and Co., like our virtual assistant firm, and then my full-time job, those 3, if you imagine a triangle, like my goal is to really have a center focus of them and to continue to help others grow their business and pivoting away from photography for myself and more into just that educational role, because at my full-time job, that's what I do. I am literally a support for every department and help grow and create a good relationship for their team. And something more recently that I'm introducing this year is I'm like guest speaking at a lot of big colleges, just as like an HR person. And so I was like, this is what I love. Like, that's why I have a podcast, because I want to educate people.
Right.
And so that's kind of where the pivot and where we will be taking the business in 23. We do have some weddings and stuff scheduled, so I'll still stick with those, but generally branching away from photography and really pivoting into that support role for other entrepreneurs. And then there's that extra little random piece out in left field, which is Petals and Ink, which is like my stationery and art. And that one, we've toyed with a couple things, like one of which we make client gifts. So let's just say that you give a gift when you onboard or for Christmas, you just order the box from us, we customize it and send it to them. And I think that really aligns with my overall endeavors of supporting other businesses, but I still just need that creative outlet.
Yeah, that's what it seems like for you. I feel like that one's like, so you get your creative fix and, the others is what you're best at. So
Yeah.
I was having a conversation with some people the other day. We did like a women's manifestation New Year's group where we just like did art and made like kind of like a vision board, but it was more like a booklet. And we were talking about how hard it is to distinguish between our purpose in life and then also what brings us joy. And it doesn't necessarily have to be for your business.
Mm-hmm.
As business owners, it's hard to be like, oh, I'm good at this. Like, I should make money off of it, which yes, if you love to do that, you should, but you're focusing also on like what you're meant to do. And that seems like a good place to be.
You're totally right though, because that was my biggest thing. I was like, come on, Katy, you don't have to make money on everything. Like just enjoy drawing.
Yeah, in the same way. So I get it. But yeah, so I just thought it's such an interesting conversation because when artists or creatives are like, what's our purpose in life? We're like, oh, art, or like, to show people like beautiful things and to create. But then sometimes that's not our calling, but we still need to do that like for ourselves because it fills us up, as you say. I am excited to see like where your future goes with all of this.
Well, thank you. And it's funny you mention it because even at work, I just introduced a women's collective. So we'll help females within the club, within my industry to like grow and blossom. And then they'll have like a mentor mentee. And then we'll do probably not quite the same as what you do because we're not in our industry, but like where we can get together and just let them like work towards and express like what they want out of their future, even if it's not in line with like specifically to our club or work. And that's something else I'm super excited about because I've always wanted to do even like a women's collective for entrepreneurs. And I'm starting to get a platform where I can test it over here and then implement it over here. So I just brought that up because you had mentioned your New Year's. That sounded like super fun. Like I want to do those kind of things.
Yeah, one of my neighbors did it, who's also an artist, and there's a lot of art people in my area. So it's really nice to get together with like-minded people and like discuss ideas like that. Cause then it makes you think. And I'm like, I wouldn't be like having this conversation on my own, but I like needed to hear it. Like to myself, I'm like, you don't have to make money off everything you like to do. Sometimes you can just do it and you enjoy it. And that is like good.
Yeah, totally.
But if you can do both, that's also really awesome.
Exactly. Tap into both with the same.
Yes. So where can people find you? What Instagrams do you want to share?
Which ones of the masks that I have?
I've also linked them in the notes, but
I would say GingerBiz. So it's just like GingerBiz, GingerBiz. That's also my podcast. And we're on, that's the handle though on Instagram. And then you can always find us at katymurrayphotography.com. That also links to GingerBiz, to Katy & Co. And through those, you can find Petals and Ink as well, which is just Petals and Ink design. So really anywhere on there, everyone has lots of options. Like if you like the art, go for the art one.
Oh, that's me too. I have 4 Instagrams, like shamefully. I mean, they all serve a purpose though, so.
Right. And that was my biggest thing. At first I was like, maybe I shouldn't have opened one for each, but I can also keep them very streamlined then and be intentional with the content of each one. So it works.
Exactly the thing. You kind of have to with marketing in general, like you kind of have to hone in on the specific topics for it to really get to the right people.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'm so glad we finally got to get together and have this chat. Totally interested in the Women's Entrepreneur Collective. If you do that, let me know. But otherwise, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm glad it worked out and we got to chat.
You guys know I love to give you all the free tips and business advice so your business can survive and thrive. And to keep that going, I've created a Patreon account where you can become a supporter and get exclusive content, one-on-one business advice, and ask me all the things. So if you'd like to help keep this thing going, go to patreon.com/design or DIY. Thanks so much.